How do you guys feel about the fact that Black women are usually the most unprotected in society when it comes to sexual, like the body being hypersexualized? So like we're never in usually romantic movies. You never see a female Black lead. But at the same token, I guess, you often hear about Black women being harmed in public by men. And I just find that really interesting. So I wanted to know how you guys felt about that.
It's so disheartening, and I remember talking with a friend, like, I just want to see Black people in, like, not like crazy like Tyler Perry cheesy movies, but like doing regular stuff, like
Yeah.
just like a, regular like Lifetime movie type thing, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like everything got to be so damn traumatic, and like while I'm aware of the realities of being a Black woman in terms of like the systems that we're impacted by, it is not the fullness of our experience or identities. Like there's an immense amount of joy and pride that's attached to being Black in the number of ways that folks show up as Black. So I think that, in thinking about like the protection of Black women in society, or lack thereof, I mean, like Malcolm X spoke about it, right? And like we see the ways that's reinforced. It's just how many ways do we have to say like we matter, right? Like we're important too, while at the same time showing up for everybody else, right? Being on the front lines of all of these movements, and yet still continuing to be placed on the margins.
I think you speak to a lot of the trauma aspect that's happening right now. Even last summer when, the whole George Floyd and his unfortunate murder, like I was scared. And I think even worse than that is just the Black experience. I feel like it's just a lot of fear. And you talk about books, and like I just want to see people doing regular things. Right now, I'm trying to look for an escape from school, and I'm looking for books about Black people that aren't about Black trauma, and it is hard because everyone wants to. Oh, she's gonna be a slave. Oh, someone's gonna do something to her hair. I'm like, no, I just want to exist. I want her to go to Trader Joe's. I want this character to go to Barnes and Noble and just exist and be Black at the same time without being traumatized while doing it.
Right.
It's just an overwhelming amount of trauma.
Yeah.
And I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
And again, it's not about like forgetting the fact that we're Black,
Absolutely
but
not.
it's just like we can be Black in a number of different ways. So on Valentine's Day, I was just all in my feelings all day, and I was just watching a ton of just like Black love films. So I can't remember. I watched The Photograph with Issa Rae, and I was just like, like in terms of the storyline, it wasn't anything stellar, but I just appreciated that it was just a journey of this woman trying to like connect with her mother's story and like all that stuff, and like it was great.
And even when I was watching that, I was like, okay, where's the shoes gonna drop? I was like, where's the KKK gonna burn the cross on the front of their lawn in southern Mississippi? I was waiting, but it never happened. And I was like, this is great. And I had to watch the movie again because I was like, now I don't have to wait for it. Now I can enjoy the movie because I'm not worried about her being traumatized, being assaulted, doing all this stuff.
Right.
Don't you kind of feel like like you said, like you were waiting for it, like, okay, I don't know what to do with this. Like, I don't know what to do with constant happiness. I don't know how to feel when there's no trauma attached.
Right.
Like, I feel like it's almost been ingrained into us to expect the worst, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
One thing that came up for me as Keisha was talking is like this image of like the strong Black woman. Like we always have to be strong. We always have to endure the sacrifice and push through the bad. Like, why can't I get love and attention and just be like calm? Why do I always have to be strong? Why can't I cry or show emotion or be emotional?
Definitely. Like this piece of like only showing emotion when you just can't take it anymore. You're at your brink and you're just completely unraveling. And then you're fine, right, the next day. I think, as we talk about like hypersexualization and all of these things, like all of it is dehumanizing, right? It doesn't give us space to show up as humans. And, like this idea, like we can't show emotion, like we are human beings, so actually we can. And we're allowed to be angry and just let that be that. We don't have to pacify folks by like trying to contain our anger because of like how we'll be perceived, because we're Black women, especially dark-skinned Black women, right? Oh, you don't want to be the angry Black girl, but then you don't say what you really want to say. You don't stand up for yourself. And there are like all these things that we have to consider when navigating like microaggressions and stuff, and it's tiring.